Okay, I got one more short, quick Sasquatch story I'll share with you. And this goes back again probably about 16 years. And a friend of mine was a fisheries officer. It's a guy with a gun and a badge in British Columbia. And he used to laugh his head off at me. Every time the topic came up, he'd just laugh. Oh, here we go again, right? Bigfoot, woohoo. And he'd laugh and hammer on me, and so would the majority of my friends. But obviously I don't give a crap. Hammer away. You know, if I know a lot of those guys, if they seen what I seen, they wouldn't even step out their door, let alone go in the woods. But anyway, get back to the main topic. So these guys typically go offshore for 30 days at a time when they go patrol our coast on the fisheries boat. So it's 30 on, 30 off, and they come home for a month. And they came in, and they were all going for a beer at the local pub that we all used to go hang out at. So I met them all. So I went down there and I met them up for a beer. And there was 5 or 6 of them sitting there. One of them was actually a biologist too. And I'd never met 3 or 4 of these guys, and I knew they are remote for a living for years. And those are typically the people that I drop the old bomb on. Hey, anybody ever have any Sasquatch stories or see anything kind of weird while you're out there? You know, 9 times out of 10 you get laughed at, but boom, that's how I'll find somebody to tell me a story, because people don't offer it up. These people don't offer up this information. They don't offer up these experiences. So it only comes up if you ask, and that's the only way. So I just go out of my way to ask the question, whether it be around hunters or loggers or fishermen, and more often than not, I find somebody with a story. And so will you. If you do the same thing, so will you. Guaranteed. So anyways, I dropped the bomb. So, hey, you guys ever hear about Sasquatch or hear any goofy stories or see anything in your travels? And of course, one of my best friends gets loud above everybody. Oh God, here we go again. Shut him up, you know? But one of them, trigger reaction went, yeah, I've seen one of those things and it was frickin' huge. You know, and that's another thing I've found over the years hearing people's stories, especially hunting and fishing, is when somebody's relaying a story to you, there's always a strong emphasis on the part of that encounter, on the part of that experience that really made an impression in their mind. And that will be the first part that comes out of their mouth. It's always the part that stands out the most in the experience. So if it was somebody who saw a monster grizzly bear, they're not going to instantly describe it first by saying, man, it was really brown. They're going to go, it was huge. They're not going to say it was standing next to a tree when they first deliver the story. They're going to say what stood out most, and usually it was frickin' huge. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that's usually an indicator that somebody's telling an authentic story, you know. So anyway, this guy, and I've seen this guy around before too. We all grew up in the island. And he said they were, you know, years ago when almost everybody drank and drove, there was an old road called Humpback Road. Thin, winding road that went right along next to the Victoria watershed, kind of at the base of the Sooke Hills, whatever you call it in that area. And it would connect from the Island Highway, and you cut across to this remote little winding dark road and come out onto the Sooke Highway and head out to Sooke. And then you bypass the city and the town where all the cops might be to pinch you if you've had a couple beers. And he said there's 4 of them in the car, late at night, they're doing the old run through Humpback Road to avoid the cops. And this thing, he said, come out of the darkness on the left side of the road. They were heading west towards Sooke. It came out, loped across on an angle in front of the car. He said it was absolutely massive, jet black. There's no way it's human. He said it may have been 9 feet tall. A couple of steps trotting and took off and dove over the bank and down into the thick bush in the blackness and disappeared. And they slammed on their brakes. Obviously, the guys, they slammed on the brakes, shitting himself. And the next thing he said was, well, this is what he said. He said it was freaking huge. And I go, where? He goes, Humpback Road. We'd all been prior to Victoria, taking a shortcut. And this thing came from the left side of the road, ran right in front of the car, crossed, and jumped down the bank, man. And holy cow, like we were shitting ourselves turning around. Gonna take note of that little detail. For you to quickly think up that detail, think about it. You're on a narrow road where you got to stop, back up, forward, back up, forward, back up, forward, back up, forward, back up, forward to turn around. Who would have thought of that detail of being terrified to turn around? Was the very next thing he said, because that would have been frickin' anxiety creating, right? You got a 9 foot tall frickin' monster in the darkness right there, and now you're taking the headlights off that spot. Now you're back to it. Oh shit. And you're not turned around yet, trying to turn around. You don't even know if it's going to come up and slap the back window out or jump on jump on the car or whatever. But it's a good point to take note of when somebody's sharing that story. If you're thinking of the story, you know, who would have thought of that detail of being flooded with anxiety because you're turning around. And then it took off the opposite direction. So there you go. There's another story, you know. And but that's how I've come across stories, is by asking people in where I have been, you know, whether I've been guiding in remote fishing lodges or guiding up north. Various people come in, and as we're BSing, the topic usually come up. Okay, ever hear any Sasquatch stories? Know anybody seen one? Just for a conversation piece. And more often than not, I'll come across somebody who has a story, and that's how I've heard all the stories that I've heard myself, aside from people just finding me and asking me or wanting to tell me. But it's usually because I asked a group of people that I'm with if anybody knew of anything or heard of anything. And more times than not, somebody's got a story. Here you go.